Hey everybody, welcome back. Today it's Monday and it's Monday all day. I'm sitting here on the Big Game Hunters, which is on the Magna Search Group.tv network with the big guy, Rory McMillan. My name's Michael Flint, and today we're talking to you about questions you need to ask your employer before you accept the job. Rory?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's just before you accept the job. I think it's when you're in the interview.
Okay, true.
Right? When you're in the interview and you're sitting there with the CEO's there or the human resources department's there, it depends on the size of the company, or the hiring manager, head of IT, head of accounting, whoever it may be. You want to ask them these questions before you accept any job.
So when they say to you, Mr. Candidate, thank you for coming in today. We enjoyed getting to know you.
But you know it's in the final stages. Candidates deep down know that it's in the final stages. It's getting close. We're on the wire. They've gone in 3 or 4 different times. And there's questions that need to get answered, right?
That's right.
And I think a lot of businesses and a lot of corporations have this huge, they put the goggles on, right? There's a lot of things they don't see, which a lot of people inside the company, they gloss over, that don't see. And they paint a really glorious picture. But I think as a candidate, it's your responsibility to make sure that this next move, wherever you're going, is going to be the right move for you. So we wanted to bring you this podcast. We want to bring you this show today. Number one question I think that you should ask, or sorry, not number one question, but the question that you should ask is, okay, so I've obviously come in for quite a few interviews now. Thank you so much for having me. I've really learned a lot. I really want to know, what's this culture like to work here? Right? What's it like for new people? What's the onboarding training like?
Yep, for sure. I'm looking for structure. You know, I'm looking for them to put a defined framework around what onboarding looks like, and then I guess depending on the role that you're interviewing for, you know, what that mentorship will look like within the organization as well. If you're going into a company and you're supposed to have the experience and the knowledge base behind the job or behind the work that you've previously done, you know, perhaps, you know, that's a whole bunch of manuals that kind of outline where everything is in an organization and where to go look for answers. Mm-hmm. In many other cases, it's about making sure you're partnered with the best person in that organization so that you learn the tricks of the trade, or the relationships that you're about to take responsibility for are properly handed over with you know, a proper handshake and eye-to-eye contact and you know, best wishes, because sometimes you're walking into an environment where someone's retiring or whatever the situation may be.
Yeah.
But Rory's right. You know, ask the questions, because how they answer that question will give you insight in terms of how they maybe develop their own people and what career progression may look like in that organization, because they care. Outside of the culture, I think it's also important, you know, to ask, you know, the hiring manager or the highest executive leader that you meet during the interview process, you know, what is the number one company challenge that they're working on right now? Like, what is the big problem that collectively the organization is trying to solve? Whether you're in IT, whether you're in accounting, whether you're in sales, whatever that one goal is, every department should be all pointed in the same direction. And I think that's always an interesting challenge or interesting question to answer, because if it's about business growth, you know that it's a sales-oriented company that is focusing on the big R. You know, if it's you know, something to do with restructuring or breaking into new markets or developing a new technology, whatever it is, you want to see a common interest across the departments, because that to me is a healthy company.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. That's a great point you bring up there. I also think too, as well, like, you should really ask them, what's the future for growth opportunity? How much growth can I get if I come here, right? Obviously, a lot of the growth and movement within inside an organization is strictly dependent on yourself and the value that you can bring to your role. And if the supervisor or the hiring manager or the boss really sees value in what you can do, then obviously you're going to get promoted, you're going to move up, and they're going to want to keep you and they're going to want to work with you. But I think it's crucial that you do bring that up before any job offer that comes your way. Don't be afraid to ask that question. Listen, like, what's that growth opportunity like here? You know, if I come into this role and I can produce, and I've got all this other areas of expertise and from what I've learned in my other roles, can I add other aspects to other area? Can I add other skills and other aspects to other areas of the business? Yep,
for sure. Yeah, you want an idea about career advancement, and that should definitely be answered during the interview process.
Yeah,
I always like our candidates to get some insight on the people from a leadership perspective. Again, you know, what their morning schedule's like. You know, a lot of times times the company dynamic, it's dictated by, the guy that gets up at the crack of dawn and he's in the office, by 7 o'clock every morning. He's probably an individual that wants to see his people arrive to work 15 minutes early and be focused already on the phones or already focused on their responsibilities at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or whatever the start time is. But sometimes, that's a good question to get some insight as to, what that company culture is like, or what the culture is like outside of the working environment, but it's still kind of all weaved together.
And I think too as well that if you were going to ask, sit there and you wanted to ask a couple strategic questions, it's good to know, like, if you're going into a startup environment, and we hear this quite often, is you really need to find out and understand, like, is that company well funded? Because you could put all of your eggs into one basket and sink all of your time and energy into potential startup opportunity, but that company doesn't have enough funding to support the growth and the decisions that you think have to get made within inside that company in order for it to sustain, in order for it to grow, in order for it to get to the next position. And we see this so many times in our industry with startups that want to hire all of this great talent and all of these great people, but they just do not have the funding. So do not be afraid to ask the difficult questions that's going to make you have more of an informed decision before accepting that job offer.
Yeah, that's a smart one as well. Sometimes it's also good to ask, what the appetite is for doing things a new way, or maybe what their appetite is for risks or experiments within the working environment.
Yeah.
What you're looking for is an openness to change or an openness to learn. In many cases in my own professional career, a good idea has come from another person. And you have to be a strong leader, and a strong individual to kind of accept the change that's been introduced to you and take full advantage of it.
Yeah. Could you explain your organizational structure? Can you please explain that? What's it like here? How's the organization structured? Is there dotted lines to this hiring manager? I'm reporting directly to this hiring manager. Like, you need to know these things, and it's also important that you meet with that hiring manager that you're going to be reporting to, because you need to see that that's going to be a fit as well.
Yeah, for sure. You have to make sure that the person that can fire you is also somebody that has a voice in making sure you're hired.
Yeah. What is the organization's plan over the next 3 to 5 years? If you're going into a startup, if you're going into a big company, it's very important to understand their plan. You need to understand the owner's plan. You need to understand the key decision makers inside the organization's plan, and you have to almost be in agreement with that plan, right? If you do not agree with it, it's just a recipe for disaster. Yeah. It's done. It's game over. You want to, and if you do not understand the plan or do not agree with that plan, then ask the questions, ask the difficult questions. For me, as an owner and someone that hires people all the time, is I really want people to understand what my plan is. And if they do not want to come on that plan and be a part of this growth, then it's a recipe for disaster, right?
It doesn't just work to have a pretty face and a nice suit. You got to show up, be ready to work, and ask smart questions.
Yeah. What type of software products are you using? What tools and resources am I going to get if I decide to take this position? Also critical before taking a position, right? Do you run on Microsoft products or Apple, Windows, whatever it may be? What tools and resources I'm going to get?
Yeah.
Right. You have to feel comfortable. You have to feel like you're getting the tools, you're getting the support, you're getting the resources. Right? Do I have people coordinate my flights, my itinerary? These are all things, depending on the level of the position. What we're trying to get at is do not be afraid to ask the difficult questions that's going to make your decision more concrete before signing that job offer.
Yeah. I think really to succinctly kind of tie it up, I mean, the bottom line is you need to walk into this environment. You need to ask questions that are relevant to the job, relevant to your success, because when you're presented that offer of employment, ideally, you're confident and excited to take the job because you know you're in a position to be successful.
Yes.
And you know the people that are there have your back, and they're going to champion your success. And then, listen, that's a career move, period.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. You're sitting on the Big Game Hunters podcast, exclusive to the hashtag MagnaOnAir Digital Network. We're bringing you shows like this each and every week. Make sure you subscribe to our network, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Instagram. We're blowing up, and we look forward to bringing you more heat next week.
Thanks, guys.